Good morning. It is Tuesday, y'all, the 19th of August, 2025. I hope you had a good Monday. This is a typical Monday for me at work, but nevertheless, it was a day the Lord hath made. I needed to rejoice and be glad in it, just like today is a day the Lord hath made. Let us all rejoice and be glad in it. So I hope that you have a good day today and pray for one another. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. If you have a prayer request, if you watch this video and you have a prayer request, or any questions, comments, concerns, you can go to my website, brokenroadjourney.com. You can message me there. Um, you can also send me an email. There's a link in the description of each video of my email and my website. Also, last 3 weeks, we're going over changes in the modern version Bibles. And so if you realized at that point that you're using a modern version Bible and you realize that what the root of it is, and you want a good King James Bible, there are some links to good locations that you can order a good King James Bible. No. Also, if you do have a King James Bible or you get one and you run across a word you don't understand, you can actually download an app on your phone and maybe a buck or two, I don't know. It is called the Noah Webster 1828 Dictionary. I have that on my phone. If there's a word that you run across as you're reading you don't understand, you can a lot of times find those answers in Webster's dictionary, the 1828 Noah Webster Dictionary. Make sure it's one of those. So, all right, let's jump into it. Yesterday, I talked about my devotional was about, not another YouTube preacher. It's not clickbait because I didn't want to just take a minute and explain. I'm not just some YouTube preacher that's just randomly spouting things out there. I'm here to help you in your daily walk with our daily devotions, but also in some of the doctrinal things that you need to know as a Christian. We're going to get into doctrine at some point, whether here in the daily devotions or a Bible study that I go in more in depth on my little dry erase board back there. And I will be posting tonight my next discipleship video. I haven't done one in a while, so I'm kind of behind. And now that I've picked up some subscribers, I think that it would be important to get some good biblical discipleship in here. And so there's like 8 lessons just on the plan of salvation and how to get saved. So encourage you to look for those, and I'll put a link in the description to that playlist. All right, so 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 1 through 3, we're going to look at today. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, 1 through 3. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, 1 through 3. Do we begin to commend ourselves, or need we, as some others, epistles of commendation to you, or letters of commendation from you? Yesterday we looked at that as a letter of praise, either from you to me or from me to you. Do we need those things? No. You know why? Because we should be seeking praise from God. We should not be seeking praise from man. I don't do this for praise or commendation from you guys. I'm doing this to help you, but I'm doing this also to please God because that's what He's called me to be a servant, to be a preacher, to be a teacher, to be a missionary. So that's what He's called me to do. So I'm not looking for any kind of praise from y'all. I appreciate the words of encouragement some folks have done on the recent videos, but I don't need those. Does it encourage me? Yes, but that's not what I'm doing this for. I'm not doing this for praise. I'm doing this to help you. Now, verse 2, this is going to flip it to you and me directly. Ye are our epistle written in our hearts, known and read of all men. Now, this word of epistle, I think, has been changed in some other versions. That's not something I looked at, but I do believe some others have changed what an epistle is. So, since I mentioned the Webster's 1828 dictionary, we're going to look at that. But what an epistle is in the Bible, we have the epistle of Paul, which are his letters to the churches and to 2 preachers and 1 individual. You have the epistle of Paul to the Hebrews. Yes, I believe Paul wrote Hebrews. I believe he probably wrote it mostly early on in his ministry, and then the last maybe chapter was written later on. But I do believe the Apostle Paul wrote Hebrews. And maybe I'm wrong about the last chapter being written later on. I'm not sure. But I do believe the epistle of Hebrews is written to Paul. Now, understand something. There's people out there that try to use a lot of passages in the epistle to Hebrews to us right now, and it's doctrinally has nothing to do with us for the most part. There are a few things we can apply in there, but the majority of it is written to the Hebrews, to the Jews. Then you have the epistle of James, the apostle. And then again, if you look at that, it's right there in the first 3 verses. It talks about to the 12 tribes. Verse 1, to the 12 tribes. So it's written to the Hebrews, to the Jews. Then you have the epistles of Peter, 1st and 2nd Peter. Then you have the epistles of John, general epistles of John. That's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. Then you have the epistle of Jude. So these are epistles. So let's look at the definition of the word epistle from the 1828 dictionary. A writing, direct or sent, communicating intelligence to a person, to a distant person. So that's what Paul was doing. And these other writers were writing these letters and sending them out to people. That's how they communicated. They didn't have email back then. They didn't have computers. So they wrote letters and sent them out. Some great distances, some short distances. But that's what they were. They were letters written out. A letter missive, it is rarely used in a familiar conversation or writings. It's not a word used much anymore. But chiefly in solemn or formal transactions. So these were letters from Paul and the other apostles to people or churches, and there were matters of the heart that needed to be discussed. That's what these were written out for. It is used particularly in speaking of the letters of the apostles as the epistles of Paul and other letters written by the ancients, the epistles of Pliny or Cicero. I don't know anything about those two. But we in our Bible, we have several epistles, 13 of which, technically 14 if you count Hebrews, 13 are written by Paul. And then you had 1 by James, 2 by Peter, 3 by John the apostle, and 1 letter written by Jude. So we get an idea of what an epistle is. It's a letter from the heart to help people in biblical standpoint. That's what they were for. But now let's look at a different epistle that involves us. Ye are our epistle. Paul's saying you are our epistle. You as people, you as churches, you as individuals are our epistles. Look what he says here. In our hearts, here, known and read of all men. So when Paul's saying that, he's saying you are a living epistle. You are a testimony and a writing of God. And our life should be a positive testimony and reflection of God. Because why? Christ lives in you. He's living and breathing in you through the work of the Holy Spirit that indwells you. I was watching a YouTube video, and sometimes they're for entertainment. I click on them, I know what they are, but a bunch of people dancing and flipping around in their pews and all kinds of nonsense. That's what it was, nonsense. That's what they're doing. And some churches today, they're Pentecostal, holiness, Church of God's out there where people just get slain in the Spirit. That's not an epistle. That's not a testimony of God. That's a testimony of Satan. Just want to put that out there because you're going to see these things occasionally. If you're a Christian, see these things pop up in your YouTube videos or your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed. You're going to watch some of this stuff pop up, and I want you to know that's not of God. That's not a living epistle. That's just straight out weirdness. But that's another story. But as far as what Paul's writing here, he's saying you are an epistle. You are a letter. You are a testimony from the heart. And you are to be a lively epistle. You're to be a living epistle. You are to be an epistle that is read among men, that they can see God actively operating in you and how you live your life outside of church, but also what you do for God. That's what we should be. We should be living epistles. So an epistle can be one in writing, like we have in the Bible here, but also understanding you are an epistle. You are a living, breathing, writing testimony of God. Now, a few weeks back, about 4 weeks ago, I did a little devotion on what does the gospel smell like coming from you? Is it a smell of goodness and something of sweet or a desire, something that smells good? Or does it stink? And if it stinks, it's because your testimony's shot. And there are people out there, their testimonies are shot. So, as you and I, as Christians, we need to guard our testimony. Now, there are times, I'll be honest, confessing my fault, my testimony has been shot. There have been times I didn't act like a Christian. I am not proud of them. I am ashamed of them because it's affected other people and not in a good way. These are times when I have backslid and gotten away from daily fellowship with God. And each and every one of us are going to face a time that we may backslide where our epistle of us is not a good epistle. It's a negative one. So you need to guard your living epistle of your life and be a lively reflection and not a dead weight for Christ. Now, for as much as ye are manifestly declared to be the epistle of Christ, that's what I'm talking about, a living testimony of Christ, a living written letter that people can read you by your actions, not some foolish nonsense like I mentioned a little bit ago, that you're actively out there sharing the gospel, encouraging people, edifying people, but in times also reproving and rebuking people. Remember, we need to reprove, rebuke, and exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. That's what we're supposed to do. And that's what you should do as a ministry for Christ. So, for as much as ye are manifestly declared to be the epistle of Christ, ministered by us, they led them to Christ, Paul and some of his preacher boys and preacher men. Listen to this. Written not with ink, not written here or on some letter, but with the Spirit of the living God, the Holy Spirit of God living inside of you, not in tables of stone, but in fleshly tables of the heart. Your epistle should be alive and lively and a help and a hope and an encouragement for others to see Christ in you to the point that they want a piece of that. They want a part of that. They want to have what you have. They don't want you if you stink to them. They want you if they can help them. All right, straight from the Bible. That's all I got for you today. Questions, comments, concerns, go to my website, brokenroadjourney.com. You can also email me directly. A link to my emails in the description below. And if this is helping you, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on notifications so you can get notified each time I upload a video. And this is from God and serving God. This is not for me. I want you to know that. And by all means, share that others can get some help too. All right. God bless you all. Hope you have a great day. Lord willing, we'll talk again tomorrow.